Good morning. For the record, my name is Tania Fernandes Anderson, the District 7 City Councilor. I am the chair of the Boston City Council Committee on Ways and Means. This working session is being recorded. This working session will be posted to the Boston City Council YouTube page and will be rebroadcast on Xfinity Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, Fios Channel 964. The Council's budget review process will encompass a series of public hearings beginning in April and running through June. We strongly encourage residents to take a moment to engage in this process by giving testimony on record. If you would like to submit a testimony following this working session, you can email written comments to the committee at cc.wm@boston.gov. For more information on the City Council budget process and how to testify at any of the upcoming hearings, please visit the City Council's budget website at boston.gov/council-budget. Just for clarification, this is a working session, again, for the public. You are not allowed to testify or give testimony in person or virtually for those who are watching at home. Again, you can submit a written testimony. Today's working session is on docket 0760 to 0762, work orders for the FY24 operating budget, including annual appropriations for departmental operations for the school department and for other post-employment benefits, OPEB. Dockets 0763, 0765 to 0766, orders for capital fund transfer appropriations. Dockets 0764, 0767 to 0768, orders for the capital budget, including loan orders and lease purchase agreements. Our focus area for this working session will be a discussion on amendments to the FY24 budget for OBM and legal. Specifically, the Office of, or Jim, who is a representative from the Office of Budget Management, is here specifically for my colleagues if you have questions on the budget. I guess mostly operating. Jim does have a previous commitment and was so gracious to accommodate our schedule. He will be here until 11:30. If you have questions, please let's make sure we do that and wrap it up so we can dismiss Jim at 11:30. I am joined by my council colleagues, Councilor President Ed Flynn, District 2, Councilor Aaron Murphy at large, Councilor Gabriela Coletta, District 1, Councilor Liz Braden, District 9. For our format, it's going to be hopefully easygoing. We'll just, I'll just present the amendments powers with you. And if you have any questions, it is not for the chair to interpret the amendment. We're all councilors, so you are at your, you obviously have purview over your discretion over over your own interpretation. However, I have met with legal, and basically this is, to my understanding and agreement with the legal department, this is how I understand it. So for City Council amendment powers, next slide. Oh, City Council amendment powers, next slide. Great, I don't have a copy of this. Do you have a copy, Karishma? I have my laptop. Let me see if I can turn it on. I apologize. I can't see that far, so I can't read it. Sorry, just for clarification, Karishma Kuhan, who is a, is it Kauhan? Chohan? Chauhan. Sorry, Karishma Chauhan is here. She is our budget analyst, and if you have questions about the budget as well, Karishma is here for that. Karishma, we'd prefer that you sit somewhere where there's a microphone, and I'm sorry if I have to put you on the spotlight, and that may be I know for an introvert like myself, it's not fun. Getting used to it though, less anxiety when I speak. Amendment powers, I got it. Sorry guys, I couldn't see it. Before I do that, sorry, can I open the floor for opening statements? If you have one, okay? By order of arrival, Council President Flynn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I just want to thank you for last night's listening session, Ways and Means listening session in Dorchester. It was great feedback we received from the community, especially young people. And I think we had an opportunity to listen to young people and hear their concerns and what they would like to see. So just want to say thank you for well-organized, informative meeting last night. I'm here to listen, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Council President Flynn. Councilor Murphy.
Good morning. Just here to listen and get this started. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Coletta.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the opportunity to talk through a lot of this. I am, last year's process was very enlightening. And so I am curious in this conversation how the budget amendment process is going to be either similar or different from last year. I certainly have my priorities that I've put out into the public, and I've had multiple town halls and tried to listen to my residents. So I'm going through the details with a fine-tooth comb and trying to quantify my budget amendments, but just curious about the process moving forward and hope to get to that in this hearing. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councilor Braden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I'd also like to clarify the process and figure out how we, last year was it was the first time we did it, so it was complicated. So I'd just like to get some insight into how we can move forward. And I have my budget priorities for the district, and just figuring out where we can plug them in and make amendments as appropriate. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Karishma, no pressure. You've met everyone. Did you want to give an opening statement, an introduction of yourself, or anything you want to say about this process?
Just excited to work with you all, and just let me know if you have any questions. I have so much data that I've cleaned up over the last month, so genuinely any questions where you're like, hey, I don't know what's in this category, I can probably figure it out for you.
Fantastic. Karishma's amazing. She's being modest. So much data means like a gazillion, like endless data that she's been swimming through since she started. She only started a week before budget and has really just dived in and done a tremendous job in giving us aggregated information and also breakdown. So thank you, Karishma. Okay, for our presentation, I'll go to the amendments. So the city charter says, section 48 as amended, excerpt, City of Boston shall hold budgetary powers together with the power to modify in whole or in part an appropriation order or an item within an appropriation order, amend the budget for Boston Public Schools consistent with the Acts of 1936, Chapter 224, Section 2, amended by Acts of 1986, Chapter 701, Section 5, and further amended by Acts of 1987, Chapter 613, Section 2 of Section 75, or 2 Section 75 of this charter, clarify budgetary procedures, and take such other actions as are necessary to amend, approve, or disapprove the annual budget for the city, accepting the powers to originate an appropriation order which shall be reserved for the mayor. So what type of amendments can the council use to modify the budget? The council can amend between appropriation categories on the tax order and within. Example, council can reduce the public works personnel services line and increase the public works contractual service line. Council cannot tell the administration how or where to execute the funds within a modification. Example, council can increase the budget for Hokies by 2 FTE full-time employees by reducing the budget for 2 engineers, but cannot specify where the Hokies are meant to be based. Any questions so far? Responsibilities of the council. Purpose of the amendment should be an appropriate use of operating funds. Operating funds support the ongoing department operational and programmatic cost within the legal, procurement, and personnel policies of the city and can be executed within the 12-month period of the fiscal year. Balanced budget. To ensure the budget amended by City Council does not exceed the mayor's proposed budget, City Council must identify reductions equal to the value of proposed amendments. Council's amended draft will include an updated tax order worksheet, but the attendant committee report will specify the intent of the council's amendments. Mayoral and council budgetary powers. Charter amendment, so we're good on that one? Cool, okay. Charter amendment, the mayor and city council shall have the power to modify in whole or in part an appropriation order or an item within an appropriation order. Due to this text, council requires additional information on the legal reasoning for executive directive power to trump the council's budgetary ones. How do we ensure all amendments are in compliance with procurement law? Procurement law generally requires competitive bidding amendments. Let's go back to the other one. So here, I have my own interpretation, and I can provide to you. This is where the council last year disagreed with the administration, and the community advocate seems to feel that we do have powers to go to make amendments within parts, and I can break it down a little bit further after the presentation. But it's still, this is actually not, like, there's more to this presentation, and I think this presentation's been like cut short, but I will look into, I'm happy to provide my description or interpretation as I see it. I think that we can basically modify things within what they call intra-departmental, so from the personnel to the contract within the department. I don't think that it has to be cross-department. So that's not here, but that's just me sharing what the advocates have interpreted. I've met with outside lawyers, I've met with inside lawyers, and still they have not given me proper explanation why we can't do that. Councilor Coletta?
I don't know if these slides have already been sent, but I'm just hoping for a copy to be sent via email. I didn't get one. Sure. Okay, thank you.
I think it was, yeah, so you should have had a copy for my team. Happy to share with you. I do think that, Karishma, did you get this language from the document that I sent you? It's been changed a little bit. Who changed it?
Who changed this?
Yes.
No, this is the same one that I made at the beginning of this whole process.
But who originally changed it? Did you guys in the admin?
I just took it directly from the document.
Okay. There was, so this part is broken down a little bit further, and we need to look into that. So I think the message to administration, because they wanted a copy to send to, they wanted a copy so that they can share out. And this is not the full document, so let's, I think the email to the administration is that, because I had asked you to share with them, is that this is incomplete and we need to change it. We need to edit. Thank you. So yeah, I think that we can change things intra-departmental as long as it's going from personnel to contract, contract to personnel. We can go cross department from either way, personnel to personnel, personnel to contract, contract to personnel. And we do need to balance the budget before sending it back, because that doesn't make sense. It clearly states here in the amendment that it has to be, sent a balanced budget, so that's our responsibility. So I do think that, because there were counselors who felt that we did not have to balance the budget, we did not have to explain where it was coming from. What you can do is make an amendment and say that the administration disagrees. Then they can send back their suggestions as to where to get it from. So they can say, for example, say that you said 2 Hokies from not from ISD, but you went all the way to a different department. They can say, well, we feel that we need money there, and the mayor can then send it back with her suggestions, or she can reject it and then send her suggestions to take it from a different department. So yes, we have to recommend where it's coming from, but they can suggest a different place where it can come from. So without any further ado, I'd like to share with you, I don't know if you wanted to, if you are ready to talk about where some amendments, recommendations, but I had some suggestions and I wanted to share with you, and then we'll go straight to our counselors to share as well. Do you mind bumping up to me? Thanks. Okay. Thank you. Sorry, the internet's a little slow. So I wanted to, and I'm just recommending moves, but I haven't actually figured out everywhere where it's coming from. So for my recommendations, I wanted to add $1 million to the Black Heritage Trail, I think in contractual services instead of personnel. The $500 to tourism for immigrant population, for cultural events in contract, for economic opportunity and inclusion, for business corridors or main streets, $1 million in contract, for place making projects to arts, $500,000, to add also personnel $100,000 for placekeeping, for technical employee for city council, $110,000 for personnel, for an FTE, I should say. This is for the ordinance that we just passed. to upkeep our webpage. We would need a personnel to add to the admin team. For district discretionary constituent service fund, this is a ordinance that I'm working on and would like to speak with administration about what that could look like, but I think each district basically would need about $500,000 in discretionary funds to be reimbursed to nonprofits for services for each district. Counselor staff increase pending Counselor President Flynn and the moves or where you are with that. But I think we would need an additional $700,000 in order to reach what we want to do to pay our staff minimum of what Boston requires to live in this city for our staff. For Age Strong, a study to explore senior recreational spaces, $150,000. And I think it could be a little bit more, and I'm open for anyone to tag team with me on that or support. A citywide racial disparity study, $250,000. I think we need that from the equity hearing that we had on the budget. Essentially, the city doesn't have any metrics to figure out where the need is in terms of disparities. For the Office of Returning Citizens, $1.5 million in contractual services. We were very successful last year with the $600,000, and I think they could use more. $500,000 for Human Service Department to increase a voucher program for low-income families. Office of Black Male Advancement, $1 million in contractual services. Office of Police Accountability, funding will go to organize a mentorship program between youth, their youth program, and the police department. So I think that's an easy one because the funding could remain in the police department. But again, I have to find out where the money is coming from. For women's advancement, there's no actual contracts coming out of women's advancement. I think to support women's small businesses, we should move money there. So I'm suggesting $1 million in contract. And economic opportunity and inclusion, additional 7 FTEs to create the technical assistance program or to build up on it for small businesses. I think it's a really good way to bring in main streets too, or start bringing in main streets and doing this work on a different level and digitize the businesses, compete with the future, right? And for economic opportunity inclusion, another $1 million. We moved $1 million last year for contractor services. But looking at what's, if when the chief comes in explaining if that's an existent already, I saw some money there just to understand if that's already there, then we don't need to move it. And this one, I think my colleagues want to move it, so I'm not going to mention it. It's still for the mental health crisis response. $500,000 in contractual services for LGBTQ. I think they're up to $350. Last year I moved $175, and I had suggested $300. This year I think it's up to $350, and I want to raise it to $500,000 for LGBTQ advancement contract. I think I'll stop there to hear from my colleagues. If you want to respond to what you heard, or if you want to make your suggestions so we can take notes. Karishma, you have the spreadsheet, right? So does everyone have the forms for the budget amendment? Great. So who wants to go first? Okay.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and thank you for being so transparent about your budget amendments. You have clearly done your homework and your due diligence, whereas I am still going through and trying really to be proactive with city departments and understand, when I'm when I say I have a priority, for example, when I'm asking for our streets and our sidewalks to be fixed faster, what is the issue? What is the barrier? And when I hear from Public Works or whoever, it is Public Works, but when I hear from them that they just don't have enough staff to get it done on the on-season months, I'm trying to figure out how to quantify that. And so I'm still trying to put very specific dollar amounts to my requests and be diligent with it. What I'm not necessarily, and I don't think this is a question for you, but maybe just a longer conversation with OBM. When we say that we want to increase personnel in certain city departments, what that actually means in terms of additional costs, so pensions, healthcare, all of that, that's not a part of the equation that I know, and I want to be very accurate when I'm trying to put in my numbers. My other suggestion, I think, for information to get from the administration through you, Chair, is just an analysis of how our budget amendments were used last year, and if the amount of funding that we had put forth to city departments, if we were able to be successful in some of our requests. And so utilizing the framework of lessons learned and how we can be better moving forward, I think will benefit the entire process. So that's just the request that I would put forth towards you, Chair.
Absolutely. Thank you. Happy to submit that to the administration. I followed up with my amendments, like maybe too close to the point where they're tired of me, but I followed up with my amendments because I really needed it to happen, especially if it went into personnel, because then that propelled into the next fiscal year. And so, for example, arts, I created a position for the placemaking, and I know that that person is going to need an assistant, so now it's a continuation. Now that person is hired, and they're going to start with the art corridor. Now I know that the businesses will need funds to continue the project, you know what I mean? So my amendments are really a continuation of growth to build up on it. And it's everybody's different, because you could have been like really, really busy, where my focus was to be like hyper focused on the projects, because I'm everything budget, so I'm constantly thinking about it. But I would also recommend, that's an amazing idea, by the way, like it would be nice to ask those questions at each hearings as well, because the transparency that we could create from those conversations to be able to provide information to the public and say, look, we were successful, we used those amendment powers, your vote and your hard work in creating that charter amendment did not go to waste, and we are here and we're representing you. Thank you. And I'd like to acknowledge that Councillor Worrell and Councillor Mejia has joined us. I presented the amendment powers, and I'll help you with, or not help you, I'll send you the copy of the amendments or the slide deck that I have. I do have to add some description there. I think the copy that I sent to Karishma does not break down like sort of the last piece, but if you have any questions about amendments or how to make moves, we can do that. But we were just going to the next counselor to talk about their amendments.
Can I ask a question now? Or?
Yeah,
All right.
Sure.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is, with the BPS budget, are we allowed to move money amend BPS's budget? Okay. No?
No.
All right.
Increase or decrease?
Increase or decrease?
Or just reject it.
Okay.
If we go to the 112 with them, it means that I think, in my interpretation, they default back to the original budget or the last fiscal year's budget, and then they have to come in through Ways and Means every single time they want to propose using additional funds.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so Councilor Braden.
Madam Chair, I really am interested in finding out how we did do amendments last year and finding out how they were spent. Like, one of the issues, we had a great, I think, a poker game raising the number of hokies that we could ask for. we asked for 2 hokies for Ulster Brighton, and I think my understanding is they haven't been able to recruit anyone because the salaries are so incredibly low that you can't actually live on the wages that they earn. So we still have the problem with trash and litter and all of the work that those folks would do, and those positions remain vacant. So we've gone through this amendment process, and then nothing's happening because the wages are just so incredibly low that we can't recruit people. I also asked for BCYF youth workers to work with our young people in our public housing at Faneuil Gardens and Commonwealth Housing, and my understanding is that those positions weren't filled either. So it begs the question, just why are we going through this effort if nothing happens? I do have a list of things that I'd like to ensure we get for our district. I don't have a price tag to them. I think increasing our EV charging stations is an issue. We have a population of 80,000 people, and we have 6 charging stations that are publicly owned charging stations. Contractual services. We have a wonderful new program. It's mandated by the state where we have to recycle mattresses, but I think I think the folks at Public Works it's a contracted service. I think they're shocked at the number of mattresses that are actually being put out on the curb. There's a wait time of weeks for them to be picked up, so I think we need to add some more muscle into that program. I had a question again. It's about the. I know it's not directly related to the this particular budget, the ARPA money. Like we did have. Where are we at with our charm centre for recycling of difficult to recycle materials? And we did earmark money for that last time. I think. Again, my ongoing concern is just this crosswalks, signage, and pedestrian and bicycle safety. That's a huge area of concern in our neighbourhood. I think we're making some great progress, but I just want to a real-time real-time assessment of just where we're at with that, and just keep going. For the longest time, yeah.
Do you have a suggestion? Amount?
Amounts. Again, I don't have a specific because I don't really have a price. Like I know that we need to implement slow streets, but I don't have a price because it's a citywide program, so I don't have a number.
So sorry. What department?
That would be. I think it's streets. Be BTD. BTD had an issue with planners and project managers as well. I'd like an update on just where we're at with that, because we can appropriate money for the sort of the capital improvements, but if we don't have it's those staff that will actually implement it.
Okay.
So I'm in a little bit of a quandary. I think I was gung-ho last year making suggestions and asking for money, and it wasn't spent. So I'm just a little more cautious in my.
You know that the BCYF wasn't spent, but you want answers on whether or not the other moves.
Yeah, the needs are still there. So then there was the issue. I think we heard some testimony from the folks from Outstanding Life Virtual Senior Centre. I really feel that is, for a very small amount of money, we could get a lot of bang for our buck in a contractual service with that particular organisation. A virtual senior centre for our LGBTQ elders, and I think it's somewhere in the order of $50,000 to $100,000. They could stand up that program. It would be a benefit to.
This would be a contract.
I think it would be a contract because they're from outside. They're an outside organisation that are doing this innovative work.
And what department do you?
I think
LGBTQ?
it would probably, it could come from maybe Age Strong because it's focused on seniors,
Not LGBTQ?
or LGBTQ, but they have a small budget. I don't know. LGBT.
But are you trying to add to it so that they can have this contract?
I think it's
available?
more. I think it's more appropriate to go into an Age Strong program.
Okay. Age Strong?
Yeah. Again, the senior centre in all.
Sorry, what was the amount?
Hmm?
What was the amount? 250?
No, 75 to 100.
Oh, right, it is virtual.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the Veronica Smith Senior Centre for Programming, again, I asked this last year, would be, and again, I'm earmarking, I'm not sure I can do this, but...
The Veronica, what?
The Veronica Smith Senior Centre for senior programming. They're working very hard to diversify their programs and increase their outreach to a community of elders in Alston, Brighton.
So also Age Strong, also contractual services.
Yeah, for programming, I'd say that's contractual services, yes.
And, sorry, you want, do you know the amount?
50.
50,000?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. The next one?
Adult education for English language. Again, I think this is contractual. I would say I have particular programs within my district that are doing a great job, so I'd say like 75,000. Again, I think...
This is, sorry, English,
ESOL classes, adult education.
also for, okay. Thank you. And how, do you know the amount?
75,000.
And language access? What department?
I would say language access, perhaps, yeah, or immigrant advancement.
Immigrant advancement?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the mattress recycling program, I would say I have no idea what the, but I think they may need to, as contractual services as well, and that would be Public Works.
Okay. And do you know the amount?
Probably 100,000 maybe.
You can always change it.
Yeah. And then pedestrian safety crosswalk signal and signage (BTD). Again, I don't have a good idea of what cost. I think that's something that all of us across the city. I know Councillor Collette is very good.
This is the one you said you have to check in with them first?
Yes, but I do think it's a budget we need to scrutinise to make sure that we're giving them adequate resources to improve pedestrian safety. We have some, we have a lot of accidents and, fatalities that are totally avoidable if we have traffic calming, safe streets program.
Do you want to get back to me after we meet with them?
Yeah, I'll look into that and see.
Okay.
And EV charging, I think, again, I don't have a price, but I would like to, I'd like to double the number of EV chargers in Alston, Brighton.
What type of chargers?
Electric vehicles, charging stations.
Thank you.
We have 8 at the moment.
You have 8?
There's only 8 at the
How many
moment.
do you need?
Hmm?
Do you know how many do you need?
Well, I would like to double it, this year and then see how we go.
Okay.
Sounds big, but 8 chargers. It's finding locations to put them as well, but that's... and then...
Sounds like a capital?
That would be a capital investment. I'm not allowed to do that?
No.
Okay. Well then...
But allowed to talk to the administration?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'll get back to you. I may have more. Thank you.
Okay, please.
Thank you.
Councilor Worrell?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And some of the things I'm going to be advocating for in this amendment process is a technical assistance grant for our civics. I don't have an amount yet, but would want that to be under civic organizing department.
ONS?
Civic organizing? It's ONS, okay.
So civic organizing? Thank you. Okay.
The men's, I think it's called Healthy Initiative or Men's Health Initiative under BPHC. Dr. Ojukutu mentioned it in her testimony during the budget hearing.
What is it
And I
called?
believe, say that again?
What is it called?
I believe it's called the Men's Health Initiative. And that's 200,000.
Is that
There's
with BPHC?
BPHC.
They're a quasi-agency. We can only increase or decrease. We can't necessarily,
Can't move, right?
yeah.
All right.
We can increase it. I mean, you can have a conversation with the chief and see where that goes, or commissioner.
Okay.
But I will list it here and suggest it as a recommendation. We can do that too.
Perfect.
And so do you know the amount?
200,000?
And this is also contractual?
I'll get back to you on that.
Okay. And then it's initiative, got it. And then, okay, I'm ready for the next one.
The other one will be pre-development costs for BIPOC developers for RFPs.
Pre-development,
Costs
oh, that's genius.
for BIPOC developers for RFPs.
You always have great ideas. Pre-development costs for BIPOC developers.
Right. For RFPs, though.
These are through RFPs as well?
Right, so it's giving grants and financial assistance to help developers of color apply for RFPs. Sometimes they have to submit their plans, and plans could cost like $15,000, and once they spend that money, they might not win the award. So we're trying to provide some assistance for those BIPOC developers
Yeah,
because they're smaller.
It's equitable, it's thoughtful, it's like real intentional. It's good, it's great. How much and what department?
And MOH, and I'm a little ambitious with this. It's
Yeah.
gonna $2 million.
A, I would shoot for the moon.
Right.
Okay.
The other budget amendment, and we want to have a conversation with A-Strong on this, is we would love to have more evening drivers for transportation. Most of the drivers now are between, I believe, 8 and 3. So we would love to have them up that other half.
That's personnel?
That's personnel.
Do you know how much?
Not yet.
Okay.
And it goes back to the A-Strong. If we're not able, well, I will also ask for transportation vouchers for seniors to ride-sharing programs or taxis.
So would this, like, a nonprofit would apply through contractor services and get
Right.
the funds and then reimburse the seniors, or give the seniors?
Give the seniors the
Okay.
vouchers.
This is, transportation vouchers, right?
Yes.
Okay, do you know how much you're thinking?
We were thinking 400,000.
Okay.
And then the other one was I think it's my last one. But I have more on here that I just have to flesh out a little bit. But the other one I have to present today is maternal health grants to provide prenatal financial support to BIPOC families to cover costs that insurance doesn't cover, whether it's, medical devices or birthing support.
Is this sort of like supplemental to whatever that is not covered, you said?
Right.
These great ideas. And, about how much?
We're still looking at the data around that. Some of these devices could cost, prenatal support for the average mother's around like $2,000. So we're taking a look at the number still. So we'll come back with a number.
Department?
I think it could be under women's advancement. Or could either be under BCYF. That's all for now, Madam Chair.
You'll get back to me whether or not it's women's or
Yes.
All right, thank you. Councilor Mejia?
Hey, money bags is in the building. I love it. All right, so I just have a few things. I'm interested in figuring out how we can feed our election poll workers. So I'd like to have some money set aside, 117.5.
175?
117,500. 117. 100,017.5. Is that how you say it in America? 117,500.
Oh, está bien, gracias. So, wait,
I see this in ONS.
I'm just really curious about the amount.
The why? Okay, so there's 235 precincts, and I divided $500 per precinct.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So that covers their meals.
Okay, got it. So I'm gonna specify 500 per precinct?
Yeah, just in case, you know how things change. But right now, that will cover some food for our poll workers.
So this is in food or,
Food, refreshments,
and this is to the
'Cause
election
sometimes-
department?
No, I see this under neighborhood services, ONS. The liaisons, the elections department is pretty focused more on the logistics. I see this more as a civic engagement, effort.
Got it.
I'd like to see, I agree with Council Laurel on supporting civic associations. I think that they definitely need some technical assistance and training. So I'd like to add my name to that amendment to help support civic associations through technical assistance, training, capacity building, printing. And that would also go under ONS. That's where I think it belongs.
Okay, name added.
I put 150,000 just to pilot it, to see what that would look like.
You think it needs 150?
I'm just putting that number in there for now. I think that.
Councilor Rowe, just gonna add the suggestion and then you get back to me on the number,
Yep.
okay?
Following the line of civic engagement, I'd love to have a dedicated youth grant effort where young people across the different Boston public schools, I don't see this in the Boston public schools, I see this in our civic organizing department, where young people can actually apply for grants to do organizing around the issues that they care about in their schools. Whether it be water in their pipes, lead in the pipes, issues around violence, but that young people get to decide for themselves what they want to organize their school community around.
Wow. I guess through nonprofits, like,
Yeah, they can partner up. The students from schools can partner up with either a nonprofit, but that we have grants set aside for young people.
what is this program called?
I'm going to call it the Youth Action Network. I don't know.
The Youth
Yeah,
Action
Network.
Network
Yeah, grants.
Grant Program.
Yeah,
And, sorry, how much?
I would say probably like $200,000 just to pilot it. And
What department?
I see this under civic organizing.
Okay.
Okay. I'd like to see some workforce development dollars to support our aging residents. Just because they're retired, that doesn't mean that they're done. And I think I've come across a lot of aging residents who want to start their own business, who want to do a little side hustle. And it would be great if we can be able to figure out if we can even provide little small grants for them to, some seed funding for them to develop their concepts. But I think our aging residents are not done just yet. And we should,
So this is a senior small business
Business.
grant?
yeah.
And where do you want it to go?
I either see that in either Age Strong or workforce development or small business.
Which one?
Age Strong.
And how much?
200,000.
Okay.
I'd like to have an initiative for cannabis, to diversify the cannabis industry. I'd like to advocate for a 500,000 amendment for small businesses earmarked for the cannabis workforce industry. Particularly, I'd like to see a study that gets done to really look at all of the different ways that we can diversify the cannabis industry that does not require opening up a pot shop.
The 500,000 is to support the people that want to open businesses, or
No, to develop
just a study?
a number of things. I'd love to see a study done on all of the different ways that we can strengthen the cannabis industry that does not require opening up a brick and mortar. For
So study
example,
done
like-
to,
so it's to look at, like, let's say for instance, you do brownies. You know, what would that look like for you to have a food truck, but for cannabis, right? A Commonwealth kitchen model, but for cannabis.
so study to assess what's required
And the
to
different, yeah.
open a cannabis business. What is it?
Well,
Non-brick and mortar
yeah,
cannabis business?
non-brick and mortar, non-business.
Okay. And sorry, you mentioned 500, so
For a small bit, that will go to.
the study
sugar.
itself, is it like 200,000 and then the rest
And
is for
then,
something
yeah,
else?
yeah, to do some focus groups with businesses, right? To make recommendations and potentially do a pilot, like a small little pilot.
And that's with OEOI, whatever
Yeah.
it's called.
Yeah,
Opportunity. OI, okay. And then, sorry, and then the other one is specifically to supporting the business to do
yeah,
it?
yeah, technical assistance. I'll give you a very specific example. Jeff, he runs Low Key. He just purchased a spot in Hyde Park. It's a cultivation site. In that space, we could build, right, a Commonwealth kitchen model for cannabis and use that as a spot for people who make brownies, people who want to do edibles, but that they have a space to be able to make their product. And right now, we don't have anything in the city for that. And I think we have an opportunity to expand.
You want this, you want these grants or contracts to come out of OEOI too?
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay. I would love to see I'd like to have a procurement accountability officer. This is similar to our nepotism, the Fair Chance Act that we passed last year, where we had a diversity chief officer. I think that we, as the city, can benefit from having a procurement accountability officer. All these dashboards that we've been talking about, you know, having someone dedicated to just procurement, like a concierge of sorts, from beginning to end, and then there is a level of accountability that happens in the city.
This is a personnel item, and what departments?
I see this in Chagrin's camp.
And the amount?
150. Similarly, I'd like a personnel item,
So this person's job is investigation? or-
investigation, tracking, being able to provide people with the technical assistance they need to reapply if they don't make it. There's like really no infrastructure for people.
Track and BRJP?
Yeah, exactly.
Requirements?
There's someone who does that, but there's not a concierge, if you will, that really holds
Implementing metrics?
exactly mentoring, partnering people up with people who've done it successfully. So more intentionality around that.
Okay.
I'd love to see an additional $500,000 in the life sciences line item. The mayor is investing, I believe. And I think she put in, what was it? Was it a 500? I'd like to match it. Increase life sciences for
What-
Black and Brown.
What department is that?
Worker empowerment.
And is this contractual or increasing in FTEs or?
I think it's contractual. It's for people to be able to apply for RFPs. How they're gonna increase capacity in the life sciences.
Okay, thank you.
And I have two more. I'd love to see some investments similarly in immigrant advancement. I'd love a position dedicated specifically for Caribbean and Latinx recent arrivals, like supporting the advancement of Caribbean and the Latino community.
So this would go to immigrant advancement.
Yeah. As a staff, a dedicated staff to that. We filed the hearing order, but there's many ways that we can achieve this goal, and I'd like to just go on the record to see if we could satisfy it with creating a position dedicated for that.
And this is specifically for, Latino and,
Caribbean,
so I'm just gonna call it Caribbean?
yeah. Well, there's Latin American people, they're not Caribbean.
Oh, that's right. So I'm gonna say Latinx and Caribbean?
Yeah. So Haitians, Jamaicans, you know, Trinidadians. And
This person is specifically like a liaison, or what are they? What are they doing?
they do policy, so they're like the intersection of, I see them like Quincy. Quincy really sets the you know, the policy, the programming for the LGBTQ plus community. This individual will be similar to Quincy, but for this community.
Before we create our own commission for it, right?
Exactly.
No,
Because you know we're going to, right? You know how much they love commissions here.
So what are we talking about in the range of?
125?
It's a great idea.
And then I would like to go on the record stating that I'd like to see support for $40 million for the participatory budget line item,
Is it an amendment?
an amendment, yeah, to increase participatory budget to $40 million as opposed to the $1. we go. So, and because of our work with then Counselor Edwards and Wu, I also would like to push for the mental health community response.
So sorry, 1 second. Participatory budget,
Yeah, 40,
Office of Participatory Budget,
40 million.
40 million. And what office, and obviously it goes to Office of Participatory Budget.
Yep.
Thank you for beating me to that.
And
And
we're doing that together.
are we
That's
doing
me.
this, are we doing this personnel and contract?
Yeah, we're doing whatever you want. I want $40 million there
The full 40 million?
for the full 40. I want it all, Chantel. Let them know.
The full 40 million?
Yes.
All right.
I want it all.
It's your amendment. I'd support,
I'd be happy with 20. I
yeah,
want you to know.
I'd support 10
Yeah, but I'm fighting for.
to start.
I'm fighting for 40. I'd be happy with 20, and I'd be satisfied with 10. How about that? Does that feel good?
That's bad negotiation, but
I'd like to fight for what the advocates are asking for.
I think you're amazing for that. I'm going to put my name down that I support 10 million
Okay.
as an amendment. But we do have to break it down to like budget and personnel, and I think that that much money moved for personnel to be hired is a lot. So like, if you think about the 2 million that they have, keeping that in personnel, I guess, if we're increasing it to 40, is it a 38 million increase, or do you want to increase it in contractual services so that they can do all those programs and things
Yeah, I
that they
do.
need?
Yeah.
And so, okay, you let me know, look into it,
Yeah,
talk to the advocates.
Yeah, but I think you are reasonably correct in terms of managing our expectations with a 10 million ask. That is, I will be okay with that.
Okay.
Just want you to know.
I'll change it to that, and the mayor will say 3 million.
5, no, let's just do 15 then, because I do not want the mayor to say come back with 3.
You know she's watching this, right?
Well, good, I'm glad. I'm not afraid of anybody, y'all. That's why I only won by 1 vote.
No.
I'm good with that. I'm not here for my seat. I'm here for my people. People know that.
Thank you, Councilman Mahir. I'm gonna put 15.
And then I have one more.
Okay.
And my last one is the community, Counselor Edwards then and Counselor Wu and I established the pilot for the mental health response.
What department is that with?
I believe that was with Boston Public Health Commission or Humans, yeah.
Okay, again, as a suggestion, like, we'll send it as a suggestion.
Or we can put it under Health and Human Services if we wanted to, so that we can keep it within our preview. We can do the community mental health response. I believe it's 2.6 million that they wanted for that.
It is 2.6.
Yeah, so I'll ask for 2.6 million for the community health, mental health response pilot. And obviously, the 6 million for youth jobs. And I think that should be enough for now. And my previous ones around the exponential learning, that I didn't get anything for.
Sorry, the youth jobs contractual or?
Contractual.
And this is what is it, YEO?
Oh, yeah.
Youth Employment and Opportunity?
Yep.
And sorry, what was that, experiential learning?
Yep, exponential learning, I still want to get that.
Is this, do you want people to apply for grants to be
Yep.
able to provide this?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
who is providing this work?
I would say Health and Human Services.
I'm sorry, like, people would apply for contracts through Health and Human Services?
Yep.
But like nonprofits is doing this?
Nonprofits,
And,
like, I'm thinking like the Boys and Girls Club, I'm thinking about Louis D. Brown Peace Institute, that be able to apply for grants where they have young people who are then working,
and you said 600,000?
yeah.
All right.
And then the last one is in the workforce development space. Mental health and wellness. I think that we need to make some deeper investments.
What is this program called? Mental health?
The Mental Health and Wellness Ambassadors Program.
For what department?
Yeah, that's a good question. Health and Human Services.
And this is to provide to mental health and wellness to whom?
Training, helping people identify their trauma triggers so that they can help support their peers. And we could do this with small businesses, we could do this with city employees, we could do this with city, Boston Public Schools. And I'd say 500,000.
Okay.
And
Is that it?
yeah, I'd like to see some investments in.
Sorry, I'd like to
That's it.
acknowledge that we've been joined by our council colleague, Mike Flaherty. How's your foot?
That's enough for now.
Yeah? Okay. Council Coletta?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I do want to take this opportunity to go through my priorities. I know that I had mentioned that I'm still trying to get specific dollar amounts and be very intentional about the things that I am fighting for. But I just want to say and just take stock of this moment, because this is a real win for transparency. What we're doing today are conversations that had happened in the past behind closed doors with the administration, and so the fact that we are doing this on the council floor in front of the public and just talking to one another, I think is fantastic and exactly within the spirit of the charter amendment.
Thank you.
So and thank you to your leadership as well. So just talking through some of my priorities, but without any dollar amounts, again, because I'm trying to be really diligent, in the order of, I guess, communities and then citywide. Trash is a huge issue in my community, so more barrels, more hokies, even though I'm hearing from Councilor Braden that it's been a real struggle to fill those positions based on the salary, so really hoping to increase their wages. I'm really interested in our trash contract reforms and how we are really utilizing them as a way to clean up trash on the streets. I had put forth during a hearing that we should have hokies follow garbage trucks around. So figuring out what that is, what that dollar amount is going to be my next steps with Public Works. Additional capacity, personnel capacity, or through contracts even, for faster street and sidewalk repair. The streets and sidewalks in my district are a mess, and I hear from my constituents every day. Parks and open space, expanding that, and of course expanding capacity to plant more trees, eradicating hunger through food access, so potentially more grants through the Office of Food Justice for folks like Eastie Farm or whoever else throughout the city. More programming through Age Strong for our seniors. I'm hearing from a lot of seniors that they're sick of bingo and they want to do some more yoga or meditation or something else that's not bingo. And BCYF youth programming as well.
Did you want, the senior, is it a study or just expanding?
I think expanding, and it would have to go through Age Strong, although I do have some BCYF centers. I'm thinking through the Nazaro Center, so if I could be more prescriptive about that and specific locations. I know that we can't allocate directly to one location, but that is a BCYF site. and doesn't operate through H Strong, so I think it would have to be both.
Okay. Sorry, I'm going to ask you one by one.
Sure.
With your priorities, just in terms of department. For trash barrels, obviously, what department are you suggesting?
That would be through Public Works.
And Hokies?
Public Works.
And the trash contract reforms?
That would be through Public Works as well.
Faster street and sidewalk repair?
Public Works and BTD, is my understanding.
And, sorry, parks and open streets,
Parks and open space expansion would,
open space expansion?
yeah, would be through Parks.
Let me just correct that. Through parks?
Yep.
Thank you. And eradicating hunger?
Office of Food Justice. And I think that that would be a grant program that could then go to our nonprofits.
And then finally, expanding senior services or recreational programs,
Yeah, and I actually have just a few more as well.
of course. Sorry, and then the expansion, is that contracts for people to come in and provide the services, or is it adding personnel?
I'm open to exploring both. I think it would have to be personnel. We are struggling to fill positions in BCYF in my district, so.
Understood. And that's with H Strong or
Uh,
BCYF?
It's both. It depends on the site in my district.
Okay, you'll update me. It's both because it's contract and personnel?
No, I'm talking about, so BCYF, for example, owns and operates the Nazaro Center, but there are senior programming in my district that's through H Strong, so I'm thinking in East Boston, we have the East Boston Senior Center, so it's not consistent.
Yeah, no, it's H Strong. Only, they're the ones who are providing the services. You're
Yeah.
adding FTEs with H Strong to go to BCYF.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. And then, in addition.
I don't want to make any assumptions, so if I ask and it's like, duh, you know that, but
No, and I appreciate that.
I don't want to make any assumptions.
Yeah, thank you. So a couple of other things are through ISD, Inspectional Services Department. We are looking for the Office of the Rat Czar or just another rat inspector. I need another building inspector in East Boston as well.
Okay.
And then just more general points citywide. So I am trying to get through the Office of Women's Advancement through contractual services, the opportunity for us to buy menstrual product vending machines that can be put in high traffic areas across the city.
Sorry, the opportunity to buy or free?
They would be free.
Menstrual products. Thank you. And next?
I'm still looking for my waterfront czar and one specific FTE under the Office of Planning. And then I think that there's some favorable numbers coming out of the Transportation Department when it comes to parking enforcement officers. I'm very happy about that, and thank you to the administration. That was a direct ask. In terms of the Transportation Department, though, they have a long way to go to modernizing their systems. And I think this would be, why don't we put, it's Transportation Department and then also do it to modernize their internal systems to track their city assets. This is a part of that proposal to be able to map where certain signs are right now. Currently, the transportation department uses Google Maps to figure out where things are at and what their parking regulations are, which is absurd.
Got it.
And then in the technology wing as well, just modernizing the inspectional services department.
Tell me about it.
And then last but certainly not least, we have the Office of Immigrant Advancement. I think I just want to co-sign onto Councilor Mejia's full-time FTE for new arrivals. Right now we have Gladys Oliveros and a couple of other folks that are running around trying to get food to folks, literally driving people to hotel rooms. And so I will uplift that request.
Did you want to add an FTE to do what you're saying? Because Councilor Mejia's was a policy
Was more
director
policy.
type.
It's a little bit of,
Is it both? Go ahead. Councilor Mejia?
yeah. It's a little bit of both programming and policy, the intersection of both, because I think they inform each other. So the person will have an opportunity to, here's the programming that we're doing, but here's some policy fixes that we need to make as a result of this. So this person will kind of have that bit of ability to do both.
Yeah, no, I think that that's great, and and then working with ONS. So Gladys does incredible work, and then I know that there are a couple of ONS folks. So maybe utilizing both will just provide those wraparound services that I'm looking for. So that's great. The other just suggestions that, or maybe thoughts that I'll present to you, Chair, is that I do hear some brilliant ideas presented by my colleagues, and so I'm wondering if there's, similar to the State House, our friends up there, they're able to co-sign on certain amendments. If
That's next.
Oh, okay.
I should have said that, sorry.
All right.
As soon as we have the list here today, we will go into, I'll ask everyone who wants to co-sign that, and I'm adding names. And Karishma, I'm probably going to need help because, thank you so much. And then the next phase is to figuring out where the money is coming from.
Yeah.
Or streamlining, exactly how much. And then the next phase is saying, what exactly am I going to put on the floor?
Gotcha. Thank you. Thank you for that
you.
clarification.
No problem. I never explained. So, any more? Okay, no problem. Councilor Flaherty?
Just want to highlight a couple amendment recommendations, and then I'll have to do a deeper dive in terms of where those funds should come from, and that may come at the hearing this afternoon. Obviously, in the process of looking at trying to eliminate wasteful spending, and also trying to identify programs and departments that may have outlived their usefulness and may be in need of transformation and/or extinction. So also going to be looking at execution of courts and the amount of funds we spend on outside counsel. With those potential resources in mind, want to continue to advocate for CAR 5 for the Mission Hill, Longwood area for our hospitals, colleges, and one of our main energy centers is Maytep, and having a Chief's car restored will ensure public safety for the residents over there.
How much?
I think they had that in the percentage of the hearing. As you had covered yesterday, they gave the number.
Well,
was it 1 point something?
we talked about 3 million being sort of the starting point to do anything. I don't remember.
Something
them
told me
actually-
something. I'm thinking it was like 1 point, maybe 2, 1.3, something. I'll check with the commissioner on that. But I know that you had them in front of us on Tuesday, and I know that they had mentioned a number. But
So sorry, I don't have the notes in front of me, but
okay,
we can get back.
I'll get back to that. Also, the Parks Department. Interesting. It's still not even 1% of our overall operating. It's at around 0.74, and I really think that if we want to continue to sort of, I guess, put our money where our mouth is with respect to our park system, which is great. It could be better. we need more maintenance staff, particularly those that can actually use the motorized equipment. My colleague had referenced Hokies, which are great, helping cleaning the streets, but Hokies apparently, because of some type of contractual glitch, are not able to weed whack and to lawn mow, et cetera. So maybe trying to identify where we can increase the maintenance staff budget so we could stay ahead of all of the things, increasing our ability to prune trees and to mow the lawns and the fields and get them, the playing fields, et cetera, so that we can, so they can be the pride of our city. And particularly a lot of our kids and teams compete with other teams in neighboring communities that boast of having better parks and fields, and no reason why we couldn't be as boastful as ours. And I think that if we can increase the Parks Department budget, get it to where it needs to be, and I just think that 0.74 is paltry, given, all the emphasis that we put on the environment, on tree canopy and parks and recreation and open space and the network from Emerald Necklace, et cetera. So I would like to see a little bit bigger commitment to our parks.
Do you have an amount? Sorry.
No, but I'm going to get all those for you. As I preferenced, I'm going to just sort of identify 4 or 5 areas, and then in the afternoon session, I'm going to target trying to eliminate wasteful spending. I'm going to be looking at execution of courts, our outside counsel bill, as well as identify programs that may have outlived their usefulness and might be ready for pasture. Moakley Park also, we need a commitment for additional phases of funding. So we're in the budget this year, but it's a massive undertaking, one of the largest, if not the largest, and most heavily traversed sort of playing fields in the city, with a combination of climate resiliency efforts in and around that area. So I know it's an expensive item, and I know that there's a commitment, but I'm noticing that there aren't any additional phases of funding, and I want that on the radar of folks across the hall on the budget side.
Sorry, the Moakley Park efforts that you're seeing in terms of climate resiliency.
Yeah, it's capital. It'd be a pretty significant capital expenditure, and it's in there this year. It was in there last year. I'm not seeing any additional phases of funding which are going to be required to get Moakley to where we need it to be as a city, but also particularly the role that it's playing, will be playing in climate resiliency in the event of a massive storm and/or if the climate conditions continue. And then, obviously, I'll echo the comments of my colleagues. I know Councilor Cleta mentioned, I assume that Councilor Breda mentioned on rodent control, just increasing our rodent control capacity to be able to stay ahead of this and to be able to take advantage of dry ice as our biggest
So did you
tool in
want me
the
to
shed.
add you to Councilor
Yes, that'd be great.
Coletter's?
And then looking forward to the BTD fund, because our parking meter fund is pretty flexible, and I tend to always say, well, we can go to the parking meter fund. I just want the BTD to be cognizant as they continue to take parking meters off the grid. It's going to have lasting impacts on the parking meter fund, and so need them to be conscious of that and judicial as to when they're making decisions to remove meters. And also see whether or not they've undertaken, I guess, an effort or a study to identify new areas, particularly in our local business districts where they could have meters that currently don't have it, so that you have a turnover for small local businesses in the neighborhood. So as you know, a lot of our small local businesses are the lifeline to our neighborhoods, and many of the complaints we get from our small local businesses is around parking. And their customers' ability not to find a spot in the event that we looked at our small local business districts and we had, whether it's a half an hour spots or an hour spots, so that you see more turnover for their patrons, then we would also generate additional parking meter fund money. So I just want to make sure that BTD understands the role that the parking meter fund plays in funding a lot of ideas and a lot of our priorities. But it seems like every year they continue to take more meters off the grid. And I just think that they need to be a little more conscious as to where and when that happens. But more importantly, if they take one off, because they think about the money we raise from it. If they take one off, they should try to find a location, kind of like when we're taking trees down. Remove a tree, plant 3. If we're removing a meter, we should be supplementing and finding 2 meters to replace it, just because we know how important the meter fund is, and have some thought to maybe extending those hours, particularly in the business districts, past 8 o'clock for additional revenue. But so those are some of the things I'm thinking about, Madam Chair, in terms of ways to increase revenue and funding, as well as identifying areas of wasteful spending to identify some of these priorities that I've mentioned with parks.
For that
Part 5.
resolution, do you propose any amendment in the operating?
On the parking meter fund?
Yeah.
Well, I want to get BTD in front of us, which I think is coming up next week.
Yes.
Next
Well,
week. So they'll be front and center with us, Madam Chair, on the 24th. It looks like, so at 3:30. So that's what I'll be looking to dial in on a little bit with them and identify how much is in the parking meter fund, how much has it either increased or decreased over the last several years, and what's their plan to maintain that fund, particularly if they keep taking meters off the grid. It's going the opposite direction, and that's a very important revenue source for us, as is the Transportation Department's meter maids, and making sure that we have enforcement officers, making sure that they're out, and we're enforcing our parking regulations as a way to also generate revenue. So, and again, I'll do a little bit more of a deeper dive in the afternoon session, Madam Chair. But those are some of the priorities that I'm looking at. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Council Mehy, or I'll go to Council Braden first, since you're next.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I do want to, I think that Councilor Rowe and Councilor Flaherty both mentioned a capital request or suggestion, and I do think that we can submit a list of the things that we want to see in our districts or in the city for the record, and we can also submit it to the administration. I think there are ways that we can go back and forth and have conversations whether or not or what they can do. So I'm asking officially everyone to give me a list, to submit a list to me. You don't have to send me your form for your amendments for the things that I've taken down, but anything beyond today, please submit a form, and if it's capital, that's okay. I'm officially requesting a full list, because I think if we submit both, I think there's still room for conversations to get things done.
Yeah.
Councillor Braden?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to also build off Councillor Flaherty's BTD parking enforcement and also planning. We've been working for years to try and have BTD look at residential parking rules, and to try and we have neighbourhoods we border 3 other municipalities who aren't allowed to park in their streets at night, and they come and park in our neighbourhoods, much to the chagrin of our neighbourhoods who actually live there. So I think they actually probably have to earmark or identify a planner and someone who's just specifically allocated to planning and implementing a more rational parking policy. Every neighbourhood is different, so one size does not fit all. But that would be a request. And also in terms of metering and parking enforcement, that's another sort of arm of that. And
so I have, parking enforcement.
Yeah.
Can you tell me the department?
BTD, and also, the use of GIS in the planning process. I'm sure they're using that already, but we have lots of technical tools that we could really move this thing along. I know this, Next, I think the Project Oscar, we have 2 sites with Project Oscar in Ulster Brighton. With the rollout of our curbside composting, anyone who lives in a building that's more than 6 units, they're begging us for an opportunity to compost their organic waste. And the Project Oscar, expanding Project Oscar might be a way to do it. So we'd like to see more sites for Project Oscar in Alston, especially Alston. There are 2 sites in Brighton right now, but there's none in Alston. Technical, am I talking too fast, Madam Chair?
Sorry, just what department?
That would be, I think that's Public Works as well.
And, sorry, is that personnel or contract?
I think it's contracted services. I don't think they do that in-house.
Okay.
And then technical assistance, we asked for this money last year for technical assistance for Main Streets programs. I think that should be an ongoing support that our Main Street programs can utilise to increase the vitality of our small business districts.
And OEOI?
Yeah. And then I think Inspection Services Department, just really ensuring that we have adequate code enforcement and on trash and all of those areas, because again I think that's a pivotal piece in our management of rodent control. So making sure that ISD has enough inspectors. Again, I have to check in.
Sure. That's personnel?
And that would be personnel for in ISD. Mm-hmm. And then I requested in terms of I think this might be facilities and planning facilities is this is more of a project request to a facilities planning for emergency services in North Alston, Brighton, for fire and EMS. I don't want to be in the position of Councillor Flaherty begging on hands and knees for a firehouse, and we've a growing area that doesn't have any. The EMS is going to be moved, and they don't have a firehouse. And I think even just to have a look at it and see what timeline we could implement some changes over there, and that would probably come under.
Is this within the BFD or?
I think it's a combination of EMS and the fire department. Like, I'm envisioning the possibility of a co-located emergency services centre that would have fire and EMS together. And that would serve the whole area north of the Pike, that includes the emerging space in Beacon Yards and Western Ave corridor.
Okay.
And then the other, just in terms of just tree planting in Alston Brighton is Alston has a severe heat island effect. So I'd like to earmark or suggest $100,000 for tree planting specifically targeted our heat island area in Alston. That would be about 1,000 trees, I think.
Okay.
I think that's all I have for now, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Councillor Worrell?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'd like to add to my list of amendments there's a program out of Chief Edu Shops called the Space Grant. I'd like to see that be continued and invested in. BRJP site monitors. I'd like to increase the number of site monitors that we have. And then also...
do you have an amount?
I'll get back to you with that.
Sorry, BRJP site monitors. That sounds like... Sorry, let me turn this off. The worst is people that work in this building call me right now. Get your administration in check. So, BRJP site monitor sounds like what you were saying. You were calling them procurement, accountability.
Oh, no, so we currently have site monitors, just increasing how many we have as a city.
Got it, so different, okay.
Yeah.
So, do you have an amount for that?
No, I'll get back to you with that.
And that's also an EOI, or?
I believe it is under EOI,
Sugar?
but it's, yeah, yes.
But it's BRJP?
Yeah, but it's BR. Boston, I believe it's Boston Employment Commission or BRJP. I can find out that information for you.
Please. And this is personnel,
Yes.
okay?
And, you know, my district has a lot of auto body shops, and sometimes the auto body shops, you know, park all their cars that they're working on the street. So our constituents asking for more parking enforcement for the BTD. So we'd love to increase the amount of full-time FTEs and BTD for parking enforcement. And I don't have an amount yet, but I could get back to you with that.
Okay, sorry, for transportation, you said, right?
Yes. I don't know if this is an amendment, but I would love to have, I know we all advocated for a lot of vouchers, city voucher dollars to go into BHA last year through the ARPA request. I would love to kind of separate that pool of money out to have, you know, rental vouchers, home ownership vouchers, or however that breakdown is. I'd like to separate that out.
You can take money out of, well, VHA, it's quasi,
Right.
but
That's true.
say it was MOH, you can take money out of personnel and put it in contract
Okay.
and separate it that way.
I guess what I'm asking for is to make it its own line item, because right now they're all in one. So you have the rental, you have the home ownership, you have the ORC, I believe, all in
Yeah.
one pool of money.
Yeah, when you look at the budget, so the amendment talks about appropriations, so, or part of appropriations. So like, the appropriation being the chunk, or part of part. So like, if the appropriation, it says OEOI, and a part of the appropriation is contractual. But then a part of a part would be within the contractual, to break it down like you're saying. So like, say you want to take money from the personnel and you want to break it down. So then you could actually create different items. You could say, like for example, with BPS or with the BPD, they have like a whole bunch of programs, and those are different items. And so you can actually say, I want this, we have the powers to create line items.
Okay.
So you can say, I want this line item, I want this line item.
All right, so yeah, so I'm advocating for a line item for home ownership vouchers.
So home ownership vouchers.
Right.
We'll do it one by one, please. And then, where do you want it to come from?
In terms of like, where do I want it to live, or?
Yeah, are you still talking about BHA?
Because we could break it down in BHA that way, right? But we
No.
can't move it around. So MOH.
Okay, so MOH, contractual,
Right.
and we'll talk about where it's coming from
Right.
later? Okay.
Yes.
And then do you know the amount to that?
I'll get back to you on the amount.
And then tell me the other voucher program.
No, that's the only one.
Okay.
for now. And then I'll put my capital request on the record as well. A Mattapan High School study. Just feel like there's a lot of school-age students in Mattapan and Dorchester, and there's a need for a study to see if there's a necessity for a high school in Mattapan. Anything else I'm missing? I believe That is all, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wait, did you get all the other requests? You only had one capital request?
That's all I have for
I'm
now.
messing with you. Okay, I think, Councilman Hill, we're going right to you now. I think we want to catch the Haitian Flag Day.
Yep.
So let's,
Quickly?
yes.
Okay. So, Chantal, I'm glad that you're here. In 2021, we established a line item in the budget for 19 to 24-year-old workforce development dollars. I'd like to do two things, Councilor Anderson. I'd like to move that line item out of youth, the youth engagement, and I want to put it in workforce, worker empowerment. That's where it belongs. And I would like to increase it from $300,000 to $500,000.
So we actually made that move.
In 2021, we established a line item.
Does that mean an additional 200,000 then?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
And,
and I want to move it to worker empowerment.
okay, work empowerment, got it.
And then,
And this is contractual?
yes.
Okay.
And
Sorry, what is it called again?
it was the workforce development for 19 to 24-year-olds, and I would like that to go from 300 to 500, and I'd like it to be under worker empowerment.
So the first move, the first amendment is removing 300 from youth engagement.
And putting it into worker empowerment, and then adding a 200,000 to that line
And then the
item.
second amendment is 200,000.
Increasing it. Yeah.
It's like a separate thing.
Oh, is it? Okay.
And then, where is that coming from?
That's gonna come out of, we don't know yet.
Okay, no problem. And then it's going to workforce.
Yeah,
Okay. Work empowerment. And
Yep.
then it's the same thing. It's called workforce development.
it's a worker, yeah, it's work
For 19 plus?
19 to 24-year-olds.
Okay, thank you.
These are young people who are aging out of foster care, DYS, and non-traditional learners.
Understood. Thank you.
And then I'd like to, I would love to have a fund dedicated for case managers, home health aid care workers, like a parking fund. You know how we get the little parking permit? I'd like, and I don't know if it's a financial thing or what, but I'd like for these folks who are providing services to our elders to be able to have a dedicated fund, so in case they get a ticket, it gets waived because of their status.
Sounds like a policy.
Okay, fine. I'll leave that alone. I'd like to do two things. One is I'd like to create a fund. I believe this would be under, in the development department, housing and development, planning and development, for
In BPD or MOH?
MOH.
What do you want to do with it?
I'd like to be able to create some sort of, because whenever people think about development, it's such a dirty word. But if there's ways for us to develop the capacity of Black and brown developers who are building affordable home ownership.
Oh, Councilor Royal has that idea.
Similar to
Exactly
his.
that. How do you prepare the funds to help you with the RFI process and costs?
For Black and brown
prior to development.
developers, yeah. So add me to that
Add you to
development.
that? Okay.
Yeah, please. And then I'd like to have, and this probably would be for Mariama's, Chief Hammond's cabinet, a lot of the small immigrant-owned businesses, like along Columbia Road, Eggleston, I'd like for there to be some funding earmarked to engage small businesses in the impact climate has on their ability to operate.
So tell me that again.
Yeah, so what we have discovered is that a lot of immigrant-owned businesses are not really educated on environmental, the climate and the impact that it has on their business. So creating either a workshop series or some sort of a little bit of funding for engagement and education to help support immigrant-owned businesses understand the impact that climate has on their businesses and how to protect themselves. Because a lot of these folks don't see the intersection of climate and their business. So I don't know where this would go.
So this is a climate justice, for example, education for immigrants.
Yep.
And
Owners,
then-
business owners,
Understood.
small business
For
owners.
immigrant business owners.
Yep.
Okay. And then specifically just to business owners?
Yes.
Okay. And sounds like small business,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Immigrant business owners.
With a collaboration with the environmental justice people, because they have the content. It's pairing these two people up. Because what we find is we end up spending a lot of time educating small businesses about climate and resiliency and the intersection of both. And I feel like that's not my job.
Do you want this to be contracted out so a nonprofit is
Private can-
providing the
exactly,
service?
exactly.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be that much. It can be $50,000. Check me out. That's not that much. Or $25,000. Is that a lot?
It's low considering if they have to employ a person.
Yeah. So 50,000. Let's just do 50,000. I don't want to ask for too much because this is a new thing, and you know how cheap they are. I don't care.
I'm gonna
Put
put
it at 100
I'm gonna put it at 100 because
and give us $2.
nonprofits have to like incur costs like tax costs and all that stuff, and by the time you pay this person gets paid like 60,000.
Okay, that's fair.
Anything else?
That is all for
Okay.
now.
Well, I'm going to adjourn our working session, and at 2 o'clock we'll come back if you guys anybody's around, for people that are missing, or for us to proceed on with the next steps. Thank you. Okay. We're adjourned.